The neon lights flickered outside Lucchese Deli, a small, unassuming cafe in the heart of Brooklyn. Inside, it was business as usual. People gathered around tables, sipping coffee, reading the paper, and chatting casually. But in the corner booth sat a man who had always kept to himself. He was well-dressed, calm, composed, and he had just pulled off one of the most audacious heists in criminal history. His name was Rafael D'Angelo. To the world, he was just another quiet banker at the prestigious Valley Trust and Savings in New York City. No one had any reason to suspect that beneath his unassuming exterior lay a mind capable of outsmarting the most ruthless and dangerous criminals in the world. Rafael had worked for the Lucchese crime family for years, but not in the way most people would expect. While others might have been drawn into the chaos of street violence, drugs, or illegal gambling, Rafael's world was numbers. He was a brilliant financial mind, trusted by the Mafia to launder their millions in blood money. But Rafael wasn't like the others. He had his own plans, plans that no one, not even the Mafia, could predict. Why had Rafael, a man with access to millions of dollars, decided to take such a huge risk? The reason was simple. He had been planning this for years. He knew that the Mafia's empire was built on deception and violence, and while he had always played his part in laundering the money, he had watched as countless innocent lives were destroyed in the process. He was tired of the endless violence and manipulation, and he had a score to settle. This wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming his own agency, his own sense of justice. The moment Rafael entered the Mafia's world, he had been aware of the risks. The men who ran the operations, like Johnny the Fish Romano, had their hands stained with blood. They were cruel, never hesitating to eliminate anyone who became a liability. Rafael had always kept his head down, working quietly behind the scenes until one night, it all became too much. The family had made one mistake. They underestimated Rafael's ability to think ahead, to plan, and to execute a plan with precision. And so, the plan was set into motion. The method would be deceptively simple. Transfer $12 million in Bitcoin, one of the most secure forms of currency, into a place where the Mafia couldn't touch it. But Rafael didn't just want the money. He wanted something more. This was about sending a message. The money would be gone, but the Mafia would never know where it went. However, it wasn't just a physical heist. Rafael had come to realize that the true power lay not in the money, but in control. With his inside knowledge of the financial systems the Mafia trusted, he was the only one able to erase the funds, leaving no trace, no way to track them. It was a gamble, a dangerous one, but Rafael knew he could pull it off. What he hadn't accounted for, though, was the evidence that would inevitably point back to him. The Mafia was known for its connections, its ability to dig deep into people's lives. As he set his plan in motion, Rafael had to carefully cover his tracks, destroy anything that could link him to the heist. But no plan was foolproof, and he knew in the back of his mind that once the family realized the money was missing, they would come for him. It was only a matter of time, but no one could foresee how quickly things would spiral out of control. As Rafael moved forward with the plan, the game of cat and mouse began, not only against the Mafia but also against his own fate. Rafael had always been a man of few words. In the early years, he had learned the importance of silence. The Mafia valued quiet people who kept their heads down and did their work. But silence had become a double-edged sword for Rafael. While it had kept him alive in the Mafia's dangerous world, it had also kept him from taking the one step he knew he had to, the moment when he would finally take control of his destiny. The $12 million Bitcoin transfer was the key. Rafael had spent months studying the system, learning its nuances. He knew that they had become reliant on digital currencies, laundered through a maze of shell companies and offshore accounts. But Rafael understood something they didn't. Blockchain technology was a double-edged sword. As secure as Bitcoin was, it was still traceable if someone knew what they were doing. The method he chose was nothing short of genius. Using his knowledge of the system, he set up a series of hidden wallets within the Mafia's encrypted network. Wallets that appeared as legitimate transactions but redirected the funds before they could be accessed. By the time the Mafia realized the funds were missing, they would have no idea where to look. But the real reason Rafael did this wasn't just for the money. It wasn't even to get away from the Mafia. It was to prove something to himself. He wanted to show that no one was beyond the reach of his mind, that a quiet banker could outsmart a brutal crime family. As he finalized the Bitcoin transfer, his palms began to sweat. His usual calm demeanor gave way to a creeping nervousness. Would they suspect him? He had carefully covered every angle, but something about this felt too easy. As if the Mafia had overlooked something that would come back to haunt him. But there was no turning back now. The money was gone, and with it, so was his carefully crafted life. By the time Rafael had completed the transfer, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He was no longer just a cog in the machine. He had become the machine, the very thing the Mafia relied on. But to be free, he needed to sever the ties that had kept him bound to their empire. The phone call came that evening. The voice on the other end was familiar, but colder than usual. Johnny, the fish Romano, didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Rafa," Johnny said, his voice low and measured. "We need to talk. There's a problem." Rafael's heart raced. He'd known this was coming. Johnny never called unless there was something wrong. "There's been an issue with Bitcoin. The funds are gone. You were the only one with access." "What the hell happened?" Johnny's words were sharp, demanding answers. Rafael tried to stay calm. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, his voice steady. "I've been handling the books as usual." "You're the only one who could have done it," Johnny shot back. "I don't like being lied to, Rafa. Fix it." The call ended abruptly. Rafael sat back in his chair, staring at the screen. He had anticipated this moment, but the weight of the situation had never felt more real. Johnny had always been ruthless, but now it was personal. If he was caught, death was the only thing awaiting him. He wasn't naive. The Mafia didn't forgive betrayal. But in the back of his mind, Rafael couldn't ignore the growing suspicion that he wasn't the only one with a hand in this. Someone had tipped off Johnny. The transfer wasn't supposed to happen so quickly, and now the Mafia was scrambling. Who could have known? Rafael's mind raced as he pieced together the events. There was someone inside, someone who had been watching him. But who and why? It was at that moment that he realized Johnny wasn't the real threat. There was someone far more dangerous, someone whose betrayal would come as a shock to him and to the Mafia. In the days that followed, Rafael's life turned into a series of tense meetings, strange encounters, and increasingly paranoid glances. He kept his head down, sticking to the shadows of the financial world. But despite his best efforts, he felt himself being pulled further into a web he didn't understand. It was during one of his late nights at the office that he met someone unexpected. Sophia Marcelli, a young and ambitious financial analyst who had just joined the firm. Her intelligence was obvious from the moment they started working together, and Rafael couldn't help but notice her curiosity about the financial transactions he was handling. At first, he resisted her advances. He didn't need anyone snooping around his business. But something about her presence intrigued him. She was different from the others. Sophia had a sharp mind and, to his surprise, a deep understanding of blockchain technology, the very thing that had allowed Rafael to pull off the heist. One evening, after everyone else had gone home, Sophia approached him in the break room. "I've been looking into some of the transactions you've been handling," she said, her voice low, almost conspiratorial. "There's something strange going on. Do you think the Mafia could be involved?" Rafael felt a surge of panic. Was she onto him? Could she be the one who tipped off Johnny? But Sophia wasn't accusing him. "I think there's something bigger at play," she continued. "I've seen patterns in the system. Someone's manipulating the ledger, and I think it's not just for the Mafia. It's something more." The way she spoke, the certainty in her voice, caught him off guard. Sophia wasn't just asking questions. She was putting together a puzzle, and she was already ahead of him. "Who's behind it?" Rafael asked, his voice barely a whisper. Sophia's eyes glinted with understanding. "You'll need to trust me, Rafael. And if you do, we can take down whoever's pulling the strings. But we need to move fast." Rafael's encounter with Sophia marked the beginning of a new, dangerous chapter. He had trusted very few people in his life, but something about her, Something about her intelligence and determination felt like a rare opportunity. If there was someone capable of helping him escape the clutches of the Mafia, it was her. Sophia's theory was simple. The Mafia wasn't the only player in the game. There was someone else involved, someone pulling the strings in the background, using the Mafia as a pawn. Rafael knew he had been too focused on the Mafia, too focused on Johnny, and hadn't seen the bigger picture. "I've been tracking some of the transactions," she said one evening as they pored over the financial records. "And there's a name that keeps popping up in the background. Someone with no connection to the Mafia, but all of their transactions go through their accounts. Someone who's been operating under the radar." Sophia's fingers tapped the keyboard, pulling up a series of anomalous accounts. Rafael's eyes widened when he saw the name, Vincent Barron. "Who is he?" Rafael asked, his voice tight. The name meant nothing to him, but the fact that it was linked to so many transactions was troubling. "Vincent Barron is a shadow in the financial world," Sophia explained. "A tech mogul with a reputation for funding underground projects. He's got a network of investors and criminal operations that extend far beyond the Mafia. But the strange part? He's connected to military contractors and government officials. Whatever Barron is doing, it's more than just business. It's global and it's dangerous." Rafael felt a cold shiver run down his spine. This was bigger than anything he had anticipated. If Barron was really behind the curtain, pulling the strings, the stakes were about to get much higher. Why would he be interested in the Mafia? Rafael muttered to himself, deep in thought. Sophia's eyes narrowed. "I don't know yet, but I suspect that Barron isn't after the Mafia's money. He's after something bigger, something that could change everything." The realization hit Rafael like a punch to the stomach. The $12 million wasn't just a heist. It was a piece in a larger game, and he was caught in the middle. Rafael knew the game had changed. He couldn't simply run from the Mafia anymore. They were just one part of the puzzle. He needed to outsmart not just Johnny and the Mafia, but also the elusive and dangerous Vincent Barron. Sophia was his only ally, and he knew that they had to work quickly. Together, they devised a new plan. If they were going to take down Barron and the Mafia, they needed to gather as much information as possible without tipping anyone off. The method was risky. They would infiltrate Barron's financial operations and discover exactly what he was planning. But to do that, they would need to gain access to his encrypted databases, something far more dangerous than anything they had done before. Sophia knew someone who could help. An old hacker friend named Toby, a man who lived off the grid and had a reputation for breaking into the most secure systems in the world. "Toby's risky," Sophia warned Rafael. "He doesn't care who gets hurt, but he's the best." Rafael didn't have much of a choice. He agreed. The next few days were spent preparing. They secured a location, a safe house in Manhattan where they could lay low. Then, they made contact with Toby, who insisted on meeting in person. They met in a dark alley, hidden from the prying eyes of the city. Toby was a wiry man in his 40s, with a scruffy beard and an anxious energy about him. He handed them a set of encrypted flash drives. "It'll get you into Barron's system," he said in a whisper. "But once you're in, don't trust anyone, not even yourselves." Rafael's gut tightened. He knew the stakes had just gone up. This wasn't just a financial heist anymore. It was a game of life and death. As they made their way into Barron's system, Rafael could feel the walls closing in. The deeper they went, the more dangerous it became. The files on the flash drives gave them access to some of Barron's most secure networks, but they were also opening doors that should never be opened. Sophia worked tirelessly, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she cracked the codes. But with each new level of access, the stakes rose. The files they uncovered were chilling. There were large sums of money being moved across multiple countries, linked to various underground projects. But what really caught Rafael's attention was a data file marked Project Genesis. "What is this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Sophia paused, her eyes scanning the contents. "This isn't just about money. Project Genesis is an experiment. They're researching something to do with biotechnology and genetic engineering. This is much bigger than we thought." Baron isn't just manipulating the financial world, he's manipulating life itself. Rafael stared at the screen, his mind racing. This wasn't about money anymore. Baron's operation was a global conspiracy, and Rafael had just uncovered its dark heart. But the deeper they dug, the more Rafael realized that he wasn't the only one being watched. Someone knew they were accessing Baron's files. The air around them seemed to grow heavier, as if they had triggered an alarm. The next day, their safe house was raided. Rafael and Sofia barely had time to react before a team of heavily armed men stormed in. They were part of Baron's private security. Men who had been watching them for days, maybe even weeks. Rafael's worst fear had come true. Someone had betrayed them. In the chaos, Sofia grabbed the flash drive and tossed it to Rafael. "Go!" she yelled, pushing him toward the back door. Rafael didn't hesitate. He sprinted through the alley, his heart pounding. The streets of Manhattan were a blur as he ducked into side streets, trying to shake the pursuers on his tail. He ran until his legs burned and his chest ached, finally losing the men chasing him by diving into a subway entrance. But as he sat in the dark subway car, breathing heavily, a sinking feeling gripped his stomach. Who had tipped them off? Sofia hadn't made it. Rafael didn't know where she was, but he knew one thing for sure. She had been a part of this, just like him. He didn't know if she had been working with Baron all along, or if something far worse had happened. As the subway car lurched forward, Rafael made a decision. He had to finish what he started. The money, the files, everything. It was all leading to one final confrontation with Vincent Baron. Rafael's heart was still racing as the subway car clattered along the tracks. His mind raced faster. Sofia had betrayed him. The cold, hard truth hit him like a punch to the gut. She had been working with Baron all along. But why? Was she simply using him? Or had she been coerced into this treachery? The flash drive she handed him was now the only link to everything. Project Genesis, the files, the money, everything was on the line. If he could get to Baron, if he could just get the information to the authorities, it would all be over. But Sofia's betrayal left him wondering. Was Baron's empire so vast that even she couldn't escape it? Or was she part of something even darker? He couldn't dwell on it any longer. The Mafia would be on his tail, and now Baron's men were too. He needed to act fast. Rafael disguised himself with a hat and jacket, changing subway cars every few stops, trying to blend into the crowd. The flash drive was safely tucked away in his jacket pocket, but even that felt like a weight of death. Every person who walked past him felt like a potential enemy. By the time he made it back to the safe house, it was too late. Baron's men had already ransacked the place. He could see the broken locks, the overturned furniture, the papers scattered across the floor. Sofia's desk was empty. The only thing left was the faint sound of a phone ringing on the counter. Rafael hesitated. His instincts screamed at him not to pick it up, but his curiosity overpowered him. He grabbed the phone, hesitating just a moment before answering. Asterisk, asterisk, Rafael, asterisk, asterisk. The voice on the other end was cold and smooth. Asterisk, asterisk, I assume you found the files by now. Asterisk, asterisk. Rafael's blood ran cold. Vincent Baron. I've got your files and your money. It's over, Baron? Rafael shot back, trying to hide the tremor in his voice. Oh, I don't think so, Rafael. You see, the game isn't over until I say it is, and you're not getting away. Baron chuckled. It was a sound full of malice, a laugh that sent chills down Rafael's spine. The next time we meet, it'll be the last. The line went dead. Rafael stood in the ruins of the safe house. His worst fear had come true. Baron knew everything. He had been playing a game with him all along. The night was cold, and the wind howled through the streets of Brooklyn. Rafael didn't have much time. He knew Baron would make his move soon. He could feel it in his bones. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about survival. Rafael's mind raced as he made his way to a nearby abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. It was the perfect place for a showdown. Sofia, the Mafia, Baron, they were all converging on him, and he needed to be ready. His pulse quickened as he pulled out the flash drive again, examining the data for the last time. There was one thing left he needed to do: expose Baron's operations and the Project Genesis to the world. The world had to know about the dangers Baron was hiding. He wasn't just running a criminal enterprise, he was trying to manipulate the very fabric of society through biotech and genetic engineering. Rafael had found the last piece of the puzzle: Baron's hidden server located deep in the warehouse. If he could access it, everything would be revealed. He had the data. All he had to do was upload it, make it public. As he approached the warehouse, his phone buzzed again. This time it was Sophia. ***, you don't have to do this. Rafael ***. Her voice was urgent. ***, I'm sorry for what happened. I never meant for any of this to go this far. ***. Rafael's hands clenched into fists. Her apology meant nothing now. She had crossed a line, and there was no turning back. I'll deal with Baron, Rafael replied coldly. Stay out of my way. He didn't wait for her response, cutting the call before she could reply. Rafael slipped inside the warehouse, moving quietly, keeping low. The walls seemed to close in on him as he made his way to the server room. The lights flickered overhead, casting long shadows that twisted and danced around him. In the center of the room, a high-tech computer terminal blinked. It was connected to a series of encrypted files, the very same files that would bring down Baron and his empire. He sat down at the terminal and inserted the flash drive. A few keystrokes, and the server began to crack under his skillful fingers. Data began flowing through the system, and in minutes, Project Genesis was exposed to the world. But as the last file uploaded, he heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps. Baron was here. Rafael's fingers moved quickly across the keyboard, the flash drive securely inserted as the files continued to upload to the cloud. The room was dim, the sound of the machines clicking keys almost deafening in the silence. The data was now in the open, ready to destroy Baron's entire operation. But that wasn't enough. Rafael knew Baron wouldn't let this go without a fight. The Mafia and Baron's private security were closing in on him. His escape routes were limited, and time was running out. Suddenly, the warehouse door slammed open, and Baron's men stormed in, led by none other than Vincent Baron himself. The tall, imposing figure of the tech mogul stood at the threshold, a smirk on his face. So, you've decided to play the hero, huh? Baron's voice was smooth, almost mocking. You've exposed everything, but it won't matter. You'll never make it out of here alive. Rafael turned to face him, his heart pounding, but his resolve solid. Baron was as dangerous as they came. He had wealth, power, and influence, but the one thing he couldn't control was truth. I'm not interested in your empire, Rafael said, his voice steady. I just wanted to bring your project to light. You've been manipulating lives, and now the world will know. Baron chuckled darkly. You think the world cares about your little data dump? There's nothing they can do about it. You're just a pawn in a much bigger game. You'll never win this. Rafael's eyes locked on Baron. It's over. This wasn't just about money. You tried to play God with people's lives. And now the world will know. But before Rafael could even finish, Baron's men advanced. It was clear Baron had no intention of letting this go easily. Shots rang out, and Rafael ducked behind the desk, the sound of bullets ricocheting off the metal walls echoing through the room. In the chaos, Sophia suddenly appeared in the doorway, holding a gun in her hand. Rafael. She shouted, her voice strained. Get down. Rafael glanced at her, confusion crossing his face. Was she helping him, or was this another trap? Sophia raised the gun, aimed at Baron's men, and fired a few shots into the air, causing them to hesitate. I'm not on his side anymore, Sophia said, her voice trembling. I don't care about the money or the project anymore. I care about you getting out of here. For a split second, Baron froze. His eyes narrowed. You're turning on me? He sneered. After everything I've done for you? Sophia stepped forward, gun steady, her eyes filled with resolve. I was wrong. I thought I could control this, but you've gone too far. You've crossed the line." In that moment, Baron seemed to realize that the tables had turned. The balance of power was slipping. The final revelation had hit him hard. His empire was crumbling. The truth was out. Sophia nodded at Rafael. "Go. You have the files. This is your chance." Without hesitation, Rafael grabbed the drive and bolted for the back exit. Baron's men were distracted by Sophia's gunfire, but it wouldn't last long. He ran through the narrow corridors of the warehouse, adrenaline pushing him forward. The truth was finally out there, but now he had to ensure it was protected. Rafael didn't stop running until he reached the safe house. His legs burned, his lungs gasped for air, but he pushed forward, knowing that this was his last shot at freedom. As he entered the abandoned building, the weight of the flash drive in his pocket felt heavier than ever. The data was now uploaded. It was on the dark web in multiple secure locations and in the hands of trusted journalists who had agreed to publish it. But there was still something missing. Rafael knew Baron wouldn't give up easily. He had people everywhere. The Mafia still hadn't been dealt with. And the authorities? They would need more than just a digital file to take down such an empire. He took a moment to breathe. His phone buzzed. "Sophia." He answered quickly. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said, though there was a tremor in her voice. "But Baron isn't finished yet. He'll come after you. He'll come after both of us." "I know," Rafael replied, his hand gripping the phone tightly. "But the world knows now. They can't hide it anymore. Baron's reign is over. We won." Sophia's silence was deafening. "You're still in this, right?" Rafael asked. "You helped me bring down Baron's empire. You've done the right thing." Sophia's voice softened. "I've done what I had to do. It wasn't for the money. It was for the truth. And the truth always comes out." Rafael nodded, but his thoughts were already racing. He knew the danger wasn't over. Baron would try to silence him. The Mafia would come for revenge. And even if the data was out there would always be a shadow lurking, waiting to pull him back into the dark. But he had one final advantage. The truth was no longer his alone. It was everyone's. Baron's empire had fallen, but the world would never forget the banker who had outsmarted them all. The man who stole $12 million from the Mafia and changed everything. As the final piece of the puzzle clicked into place, Rafael's phone buzzed once more. He looked down at the screen. It was a message from an unknown number. "You can't run forever. We know who you are." Rafael stared at the message, a smile creeping across his face. "Let them come," he whispered. "The truth is already out." Just as Rafael settled into the darkness of the safe house, the message weighed heavily on him. The truth had been exposed, but it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like the beginning of something far worse, something far more dangerous. As the camera pulled back from the lonely figure of Rafael, still clutching the flash drive, a shadowy figure stepped out of the darkness, watching him from a distance. The camera zoomed in on the figure's cold, unblinking eyes, and then the screen went black. In the world of power and secrets, truth doesn't vanish. It waits, sometimes in silence, sometimes in shadow. But when the debt comes due, every lie finds its collector. This is Enter the Crime. Watch out for the next episode.